Constructor. Constructor is a member function which has the same name as that of a class, and it does not have any return type, not even void, and it is used to initialize objects with legal initial values. And usually constructor is defined under public section. So these things you have to remember. What is a constructor? Constructor is a member function of a class. And what about the name of the constructor? The name of the constructor will be same as that of class name. Okay, and what about the return type? Is there any return type for the constructor? No return type is there. You are not supposed to write void also. So no return type with not even void. Then what is the use of a constructor? It is used to initialize objects with legal initial values, and usually it is defined under public. Okay, so definition you have to study. It is a member function that has the same name as that of a class, which has no return type, not even void, and it is used to initialize objects of the same class with legal initial values. And usually constructor is defined under public. Public means access specifiers are they, private, protected, public, default and all. So under public only we used to write a constructor. Why? Because if you write constructor under public, then only you will be able to create objects from outside the class. That is why it is usually defined under public. Clear? So definition of constructor is important. Now what are the types of constructor? Okay, what are the different types of constructor? There are three types of constructor, but according to your syllabus you need to stick on only to two. They are default constructor and parameterized constructor. Types of constructors are default constructor and parameterized. Default constructor is also called as non-parameterized constructor. Okay, and the other one is parameterized. The third constructor is a copy constructor, which is used to copy values of one object into another object, but that is not needed according to the syllabus. So two types of constructor. Now what about the peculiarity of constructors? Default constructor means I have written one program here. Just look at the program. You can see the program, the name is public class test. What's the name of the class? Test. Here I have written three data members. One is int x, second one is y whose data type is float, and the third one is ch whose data type is char. Then you can see public test. See, what about the function name? This is a function. You can see that C brackets are there, that means this is a function, but this function belongs to this class. That is why this is called as a member function. Now what about the return type? Is there any return type written on the left side? No. Is there any void or like that? Nothing. No return type is there. What about the name of the class? The name of the class is same as that of the, what is the name of the constructor? The name of this constructor or name of this function is same as that of the class, and it is defined as public. So you can say that this is a constructor. Okay, this is a function which is having C brackets. When a name is followed by C brackets, you can say this is a function, and this function does not have any return type. And what is the name of the function? Same as that of class. So you can say that this is a constructor. Now I told you two types of constructors are there. One is default constructor and the other one is parameterized constructor. And the duty of constructor is used to initialize. It is used to initialize values to the data members of objects. Okay, here this class is having how many data members? Three data members are there, x, y and ch. So the duty of this constructor is to initialize values to these data members. Okay, and I told you two types of constructors are there. This is called as default and this is called as parameterized. Look at this constructor. In default constructor, constructor name is written without any parameters inside. This is called as default constructor, and this is used to initialize the values of this object. Which are the data members of this object? X, y, ch. Simply I have initialized. See, x equal to 0 because it is integer, y is a float, so 0.0, ch is a character, so single quotes is given. So default constructor is used to initialize values to the data members of the class. Just initial values. Any initial values you can give. This is default constructor. Constructor written without any parameters inside C brackets is called as default constructor, and it initializes data members with any legal initial values. Now look at this one. Here also this is a function which don't have any return type. Name is same as that of the class, but here you can see inside the parameters, inside the C brackets, you can see three types of parameters are there. One is integer, second one is float, third one is character. See, look at the data members also. Here also one is integer, second one is float, third one is character. See, no need of giving all the three types here. You can either give one, no problem. But whatever you give here, this value will be copied to the original data member. Now look at the function definition here. Always the duty of constructor is to assign values to the data members. Here, this class, no, class test is having how many data members? 3 data members. So here also 3 data members written on the left side. Now what's the value of the first data member x? See here parameters are passed. Parameter, see, int x1. So the value of x1 will be copied into x. Value of y2 will be copied into y. Value of c will be copied into ch. One thing you have to remember here is that when you define a constructor, when you assign values to the constructor, on the left side data members should be written, and on the right side either the values or the parameters. Okay, so this is a parameterized constructor which has parameters, and these parameters are used to assign values to the data members of the objects. Okay, so this is parameterized constructor. Now look at this program. Class name is test. 3 data members are there. Public test, C brackets, nothing. This is a function, member function, which has the same name as that of a class. No parameters are written. It is used to initialize values into the data member. So this is default constructor. Now this is parameterized constructor because this function is having the same name as that of class. No return type, but parameters are written, and these parameters are used to initialize values to the data members of the class. So this is a parameterized constructor. Now look at the main function. Inside main function we will create objects, no? So class name is test. Test is a class name space object name equal to new class name, C brackets. Here you can see this part. Test C brackets, no, this is called as default constructor because no parameters are there. So as and when you write this statement, from here control goes to which function? This function. And here what are the values of x, y and ch? 0, 0.0, space. So that will be the values present in which object? Object obj. So object obj, this object obj will be having 3 data members, x, y and ch. But what about the values of those values, those data members? It is a default constructor. No, this default constructor is creating the object obj. So the default constructor just initializes this data members with 0, 0.0 and space. So you can see obj will be created. Okay, obj will be created, and this will be having what all values? Obj's x will be what? Ch, 0. And obj's y will be 0.0. And what about obj's ch? It will be a space. New object will be created. Now after this next statement, again test another object I am creating, obj1. And what about this obj1? That is equal to new test. Instead of C brackets, I am just passing 3 values. First one is integer, second one is float, third one is a character. So from here control goes to this side here. Okay, so 10 will be coming here. Here what comes? 5.3. Here E. So 10 will be stored inside X, 5.3 will be stored inside Y, and E will be stored inside CH. And the values are stored in such a way to form which object? Object obj1. So the new object obj1 will be having what all values? X will be 10. What is the value of Y? 5.3. And what about the value of CH? Value of CH is E. So another object obj1 is created. So inside the main function we will create objects, and while you create object, here we are calling constructor, here we are calling default constructor. So control goes to the default constructor. Values will be this one, and after that we are creating another object obj1 by calling which constructor? Parameterized constructor. So control comes to this side. Values will be coming here. Values will be stored, and according to that a new object will be created. So this is called as what? Constructor. So constructor is having default constructor as well as parameterized constructor. Constructor which has no parameters and which are used to assign values into the data members is known as default constructor. Constructor which has parameters or which uses parameters to store values into the data members of an object is known as parameterized constructor. Is it okay? So this is a sample program. Then so type of constructor is over. Next, constructor overloading. What do you mean by constructor overloading? We have studied function overloading also. Constructor overloading means writing so many constructor definitions in a program with the same name but with different number of parameters or type of parameters or both. Just like function overloading, same definition you can use here. Instead of writing so many function names, you have to say writing so many constructors with the same constructor name but with different number of parameters or type of parameters or both. See here, according to this example. In this example, how many constructors we have written? This is a default constructor. This is a parameterized constructor. Two constructors we have written. One is default and the other one is parameterized. So two constructors are there. If there are two or more constructors in a program with a different number of parameters or type of parameters, you can say that that is constructor overloading. Okay, so constructor overloading is also important. Then one thing you have to remember here is that if you are not writing any constructors in your program, if there is no constructor written in your program, system automatically provides a default constructor. Okay, system automatically provides a default constructor if you are not at all writing any constructor in your program. And the default constructor simply initialize the objects with any dummy values. Okay. So in most of the programs, we won't write any constructor. If you're not writing any constructor, system automatically provides default constructor, but it will initialize the objects with any dummy value. So to avoid that, we can define a constructor in a program. Then the other point that you have to remember is that if we are defining at least one constructor in a program, then the system will not provide any constructor of its own. System will provide a default constructor only if no constructors are written in the program. But if we have written at least one, means system will not provide any constructor of its own. Okay, so and one more thing, if we provide a default constructor and then if we are providing a default constructor, means it is good because we are assigning some good value, some legal value. So it is better to write at least one default constructor in your program. Then the last question that you can expect here is the difference between constructor and a function. What is the difference between a constructor and a function? What are the differences between constructor and a function? Very simple. Constructor, both are functions only. Both are member methods of a class. Constructor as well as ordinary function, both are member methods of a class. What are the differences? Constructor has the same name as that of class, whereas function can be written with any name but no class name. Function can be written with any name but no class name should be used, but constructor is written only with the class name. First point. Second point, constructor has no return type, not even void, but function should have any return type, at least void. Then constructor is used to create objects of a class. It is used to initialize objects with legal initial values, whereas function is used to perform a particular task. Function contains set of statements and which are used to perform particular task. Then constructor is automatically called at the time of object creation. We need not call constructor separately. It is automatically called at the time of object creation. But function has to be explicitly called. We have to call function by ourselves. So these are the differences between function and the constructor. So this is important. You have to remember this constructor and a function differences. See, look here. Constructor is used to initialize objects, whereas function is used to perform certain tasks. Constructor has the same name as that of class. What about function? It has different name as that of a class. Very, very important. Then constructor does not have any return type, whereas function should have a return type. Then constructors are called automatically at the time of object creation, whereas functions have to be called separately. Okay, so study well.